Thank you for joining us. An Israeli shell hit the only Catholic church in the Gaza Strip this Thursday. 3 people were killed, 10 others wounded, including the parish priest. The late Pope Francis, who died in April, had regular contact with the priest about the situation in the war-ravaged territory. The shelling of the Holy Family Catholic Church in Gaza also damaged the church compound, where hundreds of Palestinians have been sheltering from the 21-month-long Israel-Hamas war, which shows no sign of finishing. Israel issued a rare apology and said it was investigating, and Pope Leo XIV this Thursday renewed his call for an immediate ceasefire in response to the attack. Here at France 24, Charlotte Lamb has this.
These are the streets surrounding the only Catholic church in Gaza, the latest target in Israeli strikes. Since 2023, Catholics, Orthodox Christians and Muslims, as well as children with disabilities, had been sheltering at the church's compound. On Thursday, many were rushed to hospital after shelling tore through the building.
This is an unjustified act by the Israeli occupation to target civilians. We're around 400 displaced people in the church. This is a barbaric act.
Among the injured was the parish's priest, who became a close friend of Pope Francis in the final months of the late pontiff's life. Leading the international condemnation, the world's top Catholic.
For we know that no cry of the innocent victims of violence, no lament of mothers mourning their children will go unheard.
And France, which once oversaw the territory in the name of protecting Catholics in Palestine, its foreign minister calling for the carnage in Gaza to stop. The Israeli military says it's aware of the damage caused at the church and is investigating. In a rare move, the foreign ministry posted an apology on social media, insisting the state would never target churches or religious sites and regretting any harm to civilians. But for the wounded and grieving here, words of remorse offer little comfort.
Charlotte, I'm here at France 24 with that report. The images, of course, extremely moving. The situation dramatic as one could ever imagine. Let's bring in someone who knows the church in question and has visited the Gaza Strip. Canon Mark Madden, who is from the Archdiocese of Liverpool, visiting the Middle East often in the work of the Pope. Father Mark, thank you for joining us, and I'll just reveal to everybody here that you and I are friends. Our families come from the same part of Liverpool, so that's all out in the open so people know that, and I think they should. But you're here to tell us about what you've seen in Gaza and give us your reaction to what has happened. So, Father Mark, tell us about the place that now has been destroyed by an Israeli bomb.
Sure. Good evening, Mark. It's good to speak to you. It's just a very, very tragic day to day. As you said, I know Gaza very well. I've visited many, many times. I know the Christian community there. The community is tiny compared to the overall population of Gaza. The Christian community is much less than 1,000. For the Catholic Church especially, we're less than 100 people, much less than 100 people. And since the start of the war in 2023, the Catholic compound has been home to around 500-600 people. And so something like today will hit them terribly because they're all like family. So losing this, today isn't the only deaths that they've had. There was if you remember, there was an attack on the church just before Christmas in 2023, where a mother and a daughter were killed. So it's not the first time, but it will hit them extremely hard. And especially, I think what also makes it raw is the Father Gabriel, who is a very good friend of mine, was also injured. Thank God he's okay. But it's tragic. It's unnecessary. And we just wait and see what the IDF say in a report that is expected.
As you're speaking to us, Father Mark, we're seeing the images coming from the scene, and it is very distressing to see. But this is another episode in a whole sequence of distressing episodes coming out of the Gaza Strip. the fact that a church gets hit in this way, I mean, clearly you've said in a quite balanced way, we're waiting for the report from the Israeli military, but the Pope calling for immediate ceasefire, I imagine you fully back what he is saying.
Yeah, it needs to stop for everybody's sake. It just needs to stop, and the necessary aid needs to go in immediately. I speak to Father Gabriel on a very, very regular basis every few days, and he came over to England just about 18 months ago, and so he's a man of deep faith, a man that you can trust. And the reports that he is constantly giving me, there is no aid going in. Certainly the Catholic Church, the Christian community there is, I guess, more luckier than most, because they seem to get a little bit more aid into them. But I have to say that certainly without the Christian Church in Gaza, Gaza would be more hell than it is already, because any aid that they receive, obviously it goes to their own people, but a lot of that aid goes to their local neighbours. So they're not only caring for themselves, they're caring for others, and so it does need to stop. And governments. I get very angry with governments, especially our British government, that all they seem to talk about is a two-state solution and many other things. But I've never seen action. And I think hopefully, action does speak louder than words. And, it is time for governments really to do everything they possibly can to stop this. It's not just the Gazans who are suffering. People on the West Bank especially are suffering. We're dealing with another situation at the moment in a West Bank village called Taibeh, which is important for the French. And they're constantly, even today, being attacked by settlers. And Taibeh is the only Christian village left on the West Bank. So the war is far-ranging, and it needs to stop for both those obviously in Gaza, those in the West Bank, in Israel as well. Israel deserves peace, and the only way to that peace is by people actually doing something about it, and stop just saying empty words, really.
The international community is a phrase that we use often in this story. And it strikes many people that the international community is not doing enough. Too much is ongoing, and people standing by, the international community not doing enough to stop these things. We're talking Washington, we're talking, as you mentioned, across Europe. But basically, you're saying that the international community needs to actually now give an ultimatum to Benjamin Netanyahu to say, look, come on, enough is enough now. Cease.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I don't know how successful, I'll be honest with you, I don't know how successful the international community will be. Whenever I've been there and I've had meetings, they will often say that the European Union are weak, and the European Union should take more of a lead. And I do believe that. But I do wonder at times how successful they will be. I think the main player, the main international player, of course, is the US. And the US really need to take a very firm stand. More than anyone else, it's the US that I think Israel will listen to. We know that, obviously. But they really do need to take a major stand in this.
Father Mark, we need to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for joining us here in France 24 and sharing your experience of the Gaza Strip, and of course particularly of the church that has been hit by the Israeli shelling, the Church of the Holy Family in Gaza, the last Catholic church in the Gaza Strip. Canon Mark Madden of the Archdiocese of Liverpool, thank you very much for being with us and giving us your analysis and your thoughts.
My pleasure.
Thank you, sir. We will continue, of course, to bring you all the news, all the analysis as it happens. We'll take a short break now. After that, it's our Eye on Africa. Stay with us for that.